Hello, here's a crypto update. It's Monday the 4th of September, which is a big Labor Day holiday in the United States. It's also a bit of a holiday in Canada. So North American trading will be dead today. It's also for me a really interesting turning point. The start of September, either after non-farm payrolls or Labor Day, whichever comes later, is a bit like the start of the year in January, where we tend to see a kind of market trend, especially if the market's been going sideways over summer. We tend to see a new trend that can last for a couple of months, so up to 3 months really, until December. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm feeling, ready for a trend after the really difficult, choppy sideways trading we've been in for a while, particularly in crypto and such lack of interest. So let's talk about where we are with Bitcoin. As you know, let's take everything off. This is a weekly chart of spot Bitcoin. When I look at the rally that we made from the end of November to the high that we made in April, I think that was 5 waves up, and either this is 1, 2, 3 of a 3-wave correction, or this was a new wave 1 of 3 and this is the pullback, and I'm not sure which is which. As long as we stay above this low from April, it's possible that this is wave 1 of a bigger wave 3, but the way we've been trading and this pullback, it makes me think that potentially we're in a bigger sideways correction, and it kind of fits where we are in terms of the seasonality cycle as well. So if this is a bigger ABC, there's a couple of levels we should be looking for. First off, we can say if we break this measured move level that we're sitting above, at 25,500, we're likely to drop down to the 1272 level and this weekly 50 moving average, which is at 23,800. However, I think that there is the potential for this to go a bit lower. I'm going to talk about why. Now, I'm wrong and we're going up again, and this is just a ABC kind of running flat. If we close and hold above 28,200, that puts us back above those weekly moving averages, puts us back above that back test to the 61.8 level. Everything lines up. So 28,239, I'm going to, we've finished the correction and we're going up again. So this is now our kind of trading box of no man's land, no trend. Underneath 25,550, we're going to go to 23,800, but we could go lower than that, and let's explain why. We could do one of those extended C legs, and if this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's not uncommon in a wave 2 pullback to retrace to the bottom of this wave 4, which potentially could put us back to 20,000. That would be, a lot of people will be screaming if we go back to 20,000. We have to break a really big pivot level to do that. Like if we look at the neckline of this head and shoulders pattern and invert it, it's not a very even one, but even if we look at the weekly closes, I feel like that sort of 23,800 is more likely, but I'm not going to rule out that we come all the way back to 21,000, potentially back to 20,000. Let me be clear. If we come back to 20,000, I think it's a gift, because I'm really excited for next year, and I think a lot of people are going to make money if they're prepared and they don't get chopped up and lose it all in this sideways trading. So important then support 25,500. So far on the daily, you can see last week that we really did this range. And when we look at the 4-hour, you can see how clearly we're holding this support. But if we were to break down, if we were to see quite a violent move, I don't know that it'll be today, but it certainly could be overnight or tomorrow or later this week, then there are opportunities coming. Back to the top of the range would be our first target if we get going. Now, how would we know if we're going up again short term? Well, we know looking at this 4-hourly chart that back above this swing high here, which is 26,180, or we could use the 236 fib from this high to low and say back above that would be going up again, and that is 26,000. So an hourly close or a 4-hourly close above 26,000 likely means back to the middle of the range, which is 26,700, and maybe the top of the range. But if we're unable to, I think that the likelihood is that we still do have a little bit further to fall. And say hi to that weekly 50 moving average. So that's where we are. And yeah, I think it's an exciting week. I'm excited to see which way it goes, and I think it will give us really good opportunities. Same thing going on here in ETH. Now I'm going to go to the weekly in ETH. If we measure from the high here, we are sideways at these weekly moving averages, the weekly 50 and the weekly 200, but we haven't quite reached the equal measured move level at 1510. I feel like this is still set for one more push lower. We haven't reached that target yet in ETH, and I'm still looking for a sell taking us down to 1510, and we will see what happens in ETH. So no buy for me in this one. And same thing, it looks like we've got 5 ways down here. We would need to get back above these highs. Let's put the short, we'd be going up again in ETH short-term trading if we get back above this and hold above this 236 fib. At the moment 1635, and we're kind of going sideways at it. It's just not a bullish look. There are some people who like trend lines who are going to be looking at like this and saying, you know, so that's the breakdown level and only a back above that. But yeah, I'm afraid for me it's pointed to a drop before we bottom still for ETH, and buying opportunities to come. I've noticed a really weird phenomenon that it feels like in altcoins, one coin at a time will take turns, and they seem to be all Binance coins. But you see one coin at a time have a little bit of a ramp, everybody jumps in, and then back it comes. So it's not fun in altcoins, and I think until the broader market bottoms, the opportunities are going to be really hard to find and few and far between. Let's take a look at Ripple, because obviously that one has had a lot of interest. I'm a little bit concerned about Ripple holding underneath, you know, weekly fib levels last week. Underneath the, if you take a look here at this weekly 200, we was support, got underneath it, whole week underneath it. It points to a retest of these lows. It's not the bullish signal that I'm looking for, and I'm finding it really hard to find the levels. If we were to look at this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially we have still got one more wave lower to come in Ripple. And if you put a gun to my head, I would say retest this 786 fib here. Look, if I put this whole rally that we had from the lows in June and look at the fib levels, they were pretty, the 236 was a bit messy, but here in the middle, the 38.2, the 50%, the 61.8 is now resistance. So we're in no man's land between 0.42 and 0.53, and just not much going on. And you know, I think the broader market needs to rally to lift Ripple as well, unfortunately. So watch out for a retest of 0.42 in Ripple on the low side. Not everything looks terrible, but there we go. So I'm going to look at DOT. I've got a couple of requests for DOT and FET. So let's start first off with DOT, and then I've got some really interesting charts. So first off, DOT, we're going to go all the way out and look at the weekly, because clearly in this weekly chart we are at quite an interesting level. The low from December 2022, the low from June, and here we are retesting it. Is this low going to hold? I'm not sure. I think we should do 5 waves to finish. So look, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've made a marginal new low, and it does within this look like 5 waves. So potentially we could be done here. And when I look at this chart, potentially we've got 1, 2, potentially 5 waves, but this is not enough of a bottoming pattern yet to get me excited or get me in. If I go down to the hourly, let's see if we are going to make a bottom here or if we are going to break down and continue lower. So far, this unfortunately looks choppy and overlapping, but often, you know, moves start like that, so I'm not going to hold that against it. If I put my fibs on from this high to low, we would need to see above that 236 fib, and we have not been able to. So we can say holding underneath 4.29 means great level to make a bottom, but haven't got a sign of it. So now we need to look for a bigger bottoming pattern. So a bigger bottoming pattern would be a double bottom, maybe, you know, triple bottom. It would be a higher low that then takes out these lows. That would be a bottom for DOT. It's not a bottom until we got that, and so it's not a tempting buy, and it may be that this 4.29 is going to limit us on the upside, and we are headed back to retest the lows. Whenever you see a double top, which is what we've got here, we've got a double top swing failure pattern, haven't we? So we have a high and then we spike high, couldn't close above it. I think we're going to come back to the bottom of this range, which would be 4.22, and potentially underneath 4.2 all the way back to the bottom of the range. So no bottom yet in DOT. Now, what would happen if we break these lows? Now, if you measure this first leg, then first and fifth waves very often have a mathematical or fib relationship, right? So if we measure this first one and the wave 5 is 61.8 of that, that's 4.06, which we haven't tagged yet. That would look like a false breakdown, a typical crypto. Tag the 4.06, really strong bounce reversal. But I'm afraid if we don't hold 4.06, 3.01 would be where wave 5 would be equal to wave 1, and this is still going down. So dot yeah, really needs to take out that little short-term 236 fib, otherwise I'm afraid it's not bullish. And be careful with the momentum at the start of the month. Okay, let's take a look at FET. I haven't looked at FET for a bit, and then we'll talk about where we are. Rune all the way up, back down again in a C leg as well. I don't think I've got FET here. Let me have a look. Okay, FET. We'll look at FET tether at Binance, which is where seems to be all the way the volume is. Now, yay, this is a really nice bounce, isn't it? This is the inverse of what we were just looking at. This is where we've got a double bottom, where we've got that spike on the weekly, couldn't close underneath it. So we've fit the first target for this as a trade, which is the top of the range. So now the key question is, are we going to keep going? Or is this one of those funky ABCs and we're at a 1272? I'm going to say this is not a bearish reversal yet. So I think we can hold on and see if it's got room to go a little bit higher. We're at that 1272 level, and these level that quite often, you know, we're looking for the inverse of this in Bitcoin, aren't we? And so this is what it looks like when we see it this way up. So above 0.265, we've got 0.29 to come back for. Otherwise, I think, you know, if I was long of this one, clearly there's not an entrance here because, you know, we've got green and straight line. If I was long and I wanted to make sure we're going to keep going higher, I'm going to put regular candles on and say we really need to hold above 0.247 in FET. And underneath 0.247, we're likely to see a bigger pullback in a way forward, back towards around 0.23, 0.22. So looking really good, but this is a correction in an uptrend. Back further than 0.247, I think we're going to see a bigger correction, potentially all the way back to 0.21. Okay, let's take a look at a few more. One of them, really good examples of how to find levels to trade. And first one we're going to look at is Arbitrum, which I seem to have lost, which I had ready, but I seem to have had a I'm having a moment here. I apologize. Don't know where it's gone. I get stuff ready and then boom, here's Arbitrum. Okay, sorry. Now, Arbitrum had this lovely big rally, didn't it? March to April, and since then we've been in this big correction. I've put my fibs on from the low that we made at the start of March to the high that we made in April, and these fib levels have been pretty well respected. 236 fib became resistance, 38.2 was support, 50% was messy, and so on. Here we did one of those 61.8, 38.2 golden ratio zones, and whenever I see those and we then make a new low, I get excited because it might make a bullish gartley, which is a trend continuation pattern. And for the best trend continuation patterns, they have a mathematical relationship making it an ABC. So if I measure high to low, and I like to see them line up, if I measure them high to low here, they line up perfectly at 0.78. So that means for me at 0.78, Arbitrum will be a bullish gartley to buy. And obviously if we don't hold that level and we get stuck underneath it, it's going to new lows. So key level to watch for me, I think we've got further to fall in Arbitrum. It's still going to trend lower, unfortunately, and 0.78 makes it a bullish gartley. That's where I'm looking to buy. Now, you could put in a little alarm down there and then watch the price action when it gets there. That's what I'm looking for. And there's another bullish gartley setting up potentially in QNT. Let's take a look at QNT. Here is QNT. So we've got the same pattern. So from the lows that we made in June to the high that we made in October 2022, big ABC, I think. And so we're looking for 3 waves back, and then we should see a C leg higher, which is very, very tradable in QNT. And again, let's take this measured move away. We did this bounce 61.8 to 38.2. If we make a new low in QNT, our target is the 786. And if I measure from this high to this low, you can see that's where we've got a 61.8. So this is a really good classic textbook bullish gartley level at 81.04. Now, that means I think that these lows are probably going to break, unfortunately, in QNT. So if you've been buying against them, please use a stop unless you're okay with it dropping down to 0.81. We're at 9, we've been around 100. We're at 98 at the moment. So that represents a 20% drop. That's quite painful if you're using leverage. So just watch out for that. So QNT will be a bullish gartley at 81.80. Now the 786 fib is 80. I think that that's going to be sharper. So for me, the level that I would be looking at for orders is 80, but I want to watch the price action. Okay, another one that's making quite an interesting pattern is XLM, which is stellar. I haven't looked at this one for a while. Let's look at this here on the weekly moving averages. Now, the first big rally, we got rejected at the weekly 200 moving average, but we pulled back to a bullish cross in these weekly 20 and 50, which usually when we get a bullish cross, if we pull back into them, means we're going higher if we can hold them. And I'm just looking at how we're turning pretty green nicely here. This weekly 20, it's also a pretty interesting support and resistance level. If I take this high here, so there's lots to like about this level. Weekly 20 moving average, support and resistance. But my favorite thing about this level is it's the daily 200 moving average and an equal measured move. So if you look, you can see we went ABC. If I measure this swing and this swing are equal at 0.108, which means that if we get back above the daily 50 moving average and this 61.8 level, which is at 0.1359, we're going higher. I'm looking for 0.1359. If we don't here, unfortunately, it'll just be an ABC and then another leg lower, fifth wave. So yeah, short term, clearly we know if we can close above this daily 20 today, we're probably going to test this level up here at 0.13, and above 0.13, that would be a bullish reversal for XLM Stellar. Lido is another one that I think is pretty interesting support for the same reason. So we were just talking about, let's put this on a weekly. We were just talking about these bullish gartley levels. And because the bullish gartley pattern is a trend continuation, they're quite interesting. Now, here, it looks to me like Lido's made a big ABC. So we're waiting for this leg to be over. And if we're going to see a 3 drives pattern. And markets very often repeat. So if I look at this first swing, you can see we pulled all the way back to the 786 double bottom and made a marginal new high. Here we're doing this again. Here we are potentially 786 fib level. And within this, if I go down and look at the waves, I also think that we did this 61.8, 38.2 thing. And so potentially this is also a little bullish gartley here if we can reverse. So now we're bouncing from this 786, we might retest it, but in Lido above 1.81, we're going to go back to the high of this range because that would be at least as our first target, because that would be a gartley pattern. So this is not a confirmed buy right here, it's just one to watch. And again, if everything in crypto takes a bit of a dip, I'm going to watch and see if these lows hold on a retest in Lido, because potentially we are setting up a nice bullish pattern here. Okay, I hope that's useful. Back full speed ahead tomorrow, so get ready.